solar eclipse. Kiana Sage for being in Sync 366 video series. I know there was so much hype around the solar eclipse. Hopefully, my video yesterday helped you refocus your attention and not get caught up with the marketing and the hype around these types of experiences. Today, I wanted to talk about pattern interrupts. So, thank you to the person who emailed me asking about what to do when we have somebody who is a negative Nelly, is what I would call them. They tend to spiral out into the negative aspects of a story or whatever, and their pattern interrupts are excellent ways for you to increase your awareness. Number one, because you cannot interrupt a pattern without recognizing that it's a pattern. So good for you for recognizing the pattern that is discordant or working against. Discord is something that works against the flow. So kudos to you for recognizing that something is going against the flow and it doesn't feel good. So once you have that awareness, what do you do? Um, well, there. Well, first of all, because you have the awareness, you now have conscious choice. And conscious choice is an actual gift that we have to become more conscious. But if we don't use our conscious choice and we just stay in the old pattern, then that's where anxiety, fear, avoidance, those kind of techniques come into play that don't really serve your alignment. So you really want to congratulate yourself for having the awareness and then have the courage to do what's called a pattern interrupt. Now, pattern interrupts work differently in personal conversations than they would if, for example, in a boardroom. Although the technique is solid. It just works differently in both situations. So I thought I would give you a couple situations um, that might be helpful for you who are having awarenesses but are not sure. Now that I see that my friend that I talked to is going into and they want somebody to commiserate with, um, and I don't want to commiserate. So then sometimes you can just ask, "Hey, did you want my advice? Did you want me just to listen or did you want me to commiserate with you? Like what is my role in this conversation?" So that would be if you have a good friend that you're willing to have a conversation with about those things, that kind of gets it out in the open. But a lot of people don't have those types of friends. So what I would suggest is, if you're not comfortable doing that, you just that's a soft pattern interrupt, just asking, "What is my role here in this conversation?" That's a very what I would call a softball. A straight up pattern interrupt is when somebody is in the throes of their purge. I was trying to think of a nice way to say what people do as they're going into their story and they're purging onto you, and it's spiraling, and you're recognizing you don't want to be a part of it. You can have them, they're doing their thing, and you just say, "Oh, did I tell you about that sushi place that we just went to? Or did I tell you about this new pizza restaurant? It's just down the street." And you go into your story. "I just went there the other night with my husband. It was a great time, blah, blah, blah." That's a pattern interrupt. It basically completely derails the conversation. Now, that does two things. Number one, it congratulations on having the courage to do a pattern interrupt because that's going to make you more of a participant in the conversation consciously aligning in the direction you want to go and talk about things that are more interesting or light or fun for you. And it completely stops their emotional diatribe, if you will, from being purged onto you. So it does all the pattern interrupt necessities. Now, when you are doing the pattern interrupt, to you, it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel different. And you might even judge it as rude. However, it's none of those things. It's you taking conscious control of what you're willing to have uh, participate in. And when you are being thrown up on or purged upon in a way that you don't like, one thing that you're doing is you're abdicating your personal authority, and you don't ever want to do that, ever. So when you have an awareness of the pattern and then you're making a conscious choice to disrupt the pattern, you're now in your power, which will feel different for you. And it is empowering and it changes the conversation. Now, if this person is really really wants to share their story, they're going to come back around. So you could try another pattern interrupt when they do that. And what you can do is just have fun with the conversation because now you're fully engaged. And isn't it good to be fully engaged than thrown up on from somebody's emotional stuff that's none of your business, really? So that's how you do a pattern interrupt with a friend. My suggestion is that you have a couple different topics that are not political and you can just dive into with ease. Like it could be a current event. Oh, did you hear about the solar? Did you watch the solar eclipse? You can just do current events and just have like a little list, especially as you're getting to more familiar with this aspect of yourself. Make a little list of ways that you could do a pattern interrupt, like the topics, and just have them in your back pocket. And they could always be your go-to, no matter what person you're talking to, whether it's a colleague, a friend, a family member. It's good to have go-to pattern interrupts. Because truth is that most people are not aware that they are doing what they're doing. And this happens all the time. For me, I've had clients call I've had clients literally call and yell at me, telling me they didn't like what I was doing, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, tell it to my face. I'll meet you on this day, on this time, and we're going to have a meeting. And I literally had a meeting with this man who was so vile and so hostile towards me. And I said to him, you know, I'm here because nobody wants to be that angry over this little thing. So tell me what's really going on. And he cried in my office for 45 minutes. So, people are not aware of their behavior and how that is impacting other people. So, I want to say that. Now, doing pattern interrupts in a meeting really can be dicey because you must know your authority in which you are working with and how much authority you have to disrupt patterns. So for me, I'm called in as a consultant. I have 100% authority to disrupt patterns. I'm given to that not by HR because HR has zero authority when it comes to executives. And it must come from the leader of the organization. So, for example, when I am constructing a pattern interrupt for people to see their behaviors as a staff, I construct it. I divide the groups up so people see who's on what faction, and I let them see and experience themselves in a way that could be quite painful and disruptive to their own emotional discord, and they won't like it. So nobody likes their patterns being challenged or changed. So know that going in. But that doesn't mean that those patterns or behaviors don't need to be changed, okay? It's not about liking or disliking. So get out of I like to do this or I don't like to do this. Like as a consultant, that's my job to disrupt patterns, okay? So I'm very conscious of my job and my role and how much authority I have. So as a consultant, if I have the authority of the top guy, no matter what, whoever's going to complain, they're going to go to that guy who I know has got my back. Now, if I had to do a pattern interrupt without that, I would be fired, killed off, assassinated, ineffective at my job. So you've got to make sure you know how much authority you have to do what you're doing. But once I get the people seeing their patterns and they're very uncomfortable, now the patterns can start to be changed in a more productive, healthy ways. But you cannot do that without a pattern interrupt. And in my opinion, when people are doing culture change initiatives within organizations, they fail miserably at doing pattern interrupts. And pattern interrupts really gets everybody on the same page. So now we're talking about the same things. And oftentimes that lack of clarity is happening within organizations, and that's what keeps the patterns repeating in a negative way. So constructing a pattern interrupt for an organization must be strategic, and you must know what your authority is to make the changes that you're wanting to make. If you are in an organization and you don't have the authority, let's just say, and you just happen to be stuck in the meeting where you have to go to this meeting and you have to listen to these people talk about these ridiculous things repeatedly. My suggestion is drink lots of water. So you have to go to the bathroom and excuse yourself. Use that time to regroup, and refresh, and then you can be more present. The other thing is I would ask you to, look and see what is it that you're missing about the patterns that are happening as an undercurrent within the organization. So that's just my 11-minute diatribe on pattern interruptions. They're exceptionally effective. Nearly, I would say, 99% of the time, once you do a pattern interruption, the conversation will not uh, digress into something else. Um, Most likely, you can leverage it to go in a different direction 99% of the time. And that's for somebody who's not skilled at it. So, like I do this for a career. Um, 100% effective. I will not do a pattern interrupt if it's not going to be effective. So it's always worth doing pattern interrupts because it serves everybody to be participating equally in a conversation. That is what communication is. It's about honoring one another. And if you're in conversations where that's reoccurring where you're not honored, that is something for you to reflect on because that wouldn't be happening if that wasn't for you to learn from so you can break those patterns. Everybody deserves respect, everybody deserves honor. And if people are not able to consciously do those things, then I would question whether they deserve to be in your existence and in your life as a coworker, as a friend, as a family member, even. So, cheers to being in sync. I hope you found this helpful. And I am Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. Cheers.